All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
Wait for the music. Just furiously, including all of his recording and audio and video equipment, to head to Washington, D.C., where his dad has not been well. And so he is headed back to help that with a family situation. But he will be broadcasting from Washington, D.C. next week. But it's me and Albert today, tomorrow. Hi, Albert. How are you?
I'm good, Kim. Look at us. We're in the driver's seat now with Mark out. So
who needs Mark Thompson?
Hopefully we don't crash the car, but we'll probably take it somewhere better now that Mark isn't here.
Sayonara, sucker. Right? That's what we say on the Mark Thompson Show. By the way, just because Mark is out today and headed back to see his parents, it's a perfect opportunity to show this cute picture. That's Mark and his dad and his mom with their Mark Thompson beanies. In the chilly weather in Washington, D.C. So that's where he's headed. Of course, family always first here on the Mark Thompson Show. Speaking of family, I love to see all the activity in the chat room going on. We're going to rely heavily on you today and also on Albert. We have some great things coming up on the show, though, including a great stories from the sky segment. So that should be pretty fun. We will also talk to Jefferson Graham, who has a show that will be on YouTube today as well at 2:00. And we'll talk to Belinda Weymouth. It's The Planet Stupid coming up, and she's got some great stories to share with us for today. We do want to thank our founding sponsor. That is tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. This show, and I don't know, Albert, how many sponsors are we at? Because now, because yesterday we hit the 10,000 mark. When I checked last night, it was 10,200. So I wonder how many today. Is it still 10.2?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around 10,200. I'm checking right now.
Okay, all right.
But it kind of expedited really quick. I think Mark was on TYT and he was on KFI, and I guess he was really helping us out. Yeah, it's almost to 10,300, so that's some good news.
So the show is growing, and it would not have been possible to even get this plane off the ground without tax attorney Steve Moskowitz, who came in before we even started and said, listen, I want to sponsor you guys. I want to help you get something up and running. So tax attorney Steve Moskowitz can be reached at 888-TAX-DEAL, moskowitzllp.com, and we are very grateful for his support. If, by the way, you would like to sponsor the show, we would love to talk to you. You can check in with us at the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. There it is at the bottom, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. And it's funny because we worked at Station X for a while, but we were all on the programming side, which means we were the on-air people, the producers, the stuff that the people that made the stuff getting on the air happen, not the salespeople. So we're trying to put together a show sheet and prices, and we're new at all of this. But if you're interested in sponsoring, please don't laugh at our attempt to advertise the show and to kind of give you a price list and tell you what that's all about. Anyway, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Lots of opportunities to get involved and to be part of it all. And the donations and contributions are already rolling in this morning. So grateful. Thank you so much, Anne. You're so nice. We really appreciate that. Again, the show is crowdfunded, and so we are always grateful for that. If you would like to contribute, look at Sarah and Chris Keith, and I haven't seen your names before. Safe travels to Mark. Yes, wishing your dad well. Looking forward to the show today, Kim. Let's hope I can. Thank you so much. Hoping I can put on something. Lori above the bar. Thank you. Good morning. In lieu of purchasing a few martinis, Daniel Dresser is making. Thank you. Making a contribution to the show. He's a huge fan and grateful that he can listen to his favorite radio personalities. Daniel Dresser, you're awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Lori above the bar. By the way, Lori above the bar, of course, over at the Red Jack Saloon in San Francisco on Bay Street. And if you'd like to go buy a martini, maybe a Maduro Mule, or just say hi and have a mocktail or a drink. She'd love to help you out. So, friend of the show, Lori Above the Bar, we always appreciate you. You're awesome. So, and before, as we were talking about contributions, I did see one that came in before the show even started, and that was from Andreas. So, Andreas, thank you again. Hope your dad is doing well and comes home safely from the hospital and that everything's okay. Gosh, a lot of family medical stuff happening lately. I'm telling you. So thank you for the contributions. The YouTube stickers and contribution super chat is open throughout the show. And I would love to get a lot of contributions so that it looks like people like me better than Mark. Woohoo! I'm just kidding.
It does look. I'm loving all the support. Obviously, it's well deserved, Kim. But I love it, especially because Mark is out, and I know Mark would hate it.
That's why, yeah. It's just to really rib him a little bit.
It feels better.
Yeah. It's all right. We like to show up Mark once in a while. We have to, he is kind of a big deal, and we all understand this. But it feels good to, bring him down a little bit.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Of course I kid.
I mean, you have a voice like that. I used to tell people when I first started working with Mark.
Yeah.
I was like, Mark calls me on the phone and it's just pleasant to hear him talking to me. Sometimes I'm not even listening. I'm just listening to his voice.
Sit back and, pretend you're listening to the radio. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's so awesome. We love him and we're kidding. Kind of. So I wanted to show you some pictures. Oh, before I do that, I should tell you to click on the like button and subscribe because we're looking for to get some more
with your iron rod
and keep the show growing. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so did you guys know that I think it was yesterday it snowed at Disneyland? By snow, what I mean is
it wasn't the end of night snow when you're walking out of the park, the bubble snow.
Not the soap bubbles. It was the real deal, except it's called Grauple. I think I'm saying it right, Grauple, which is kind of it's a slushy, snowy situation, like a mix between hail and snow. So technically, weather people say it wasn't snow, but it was pretty close. And let me show you the video. Here it is.
It is snowing at California Adventure.
I can see that.
It's snowing at California Adventure. What the heck? I have never seen anything like this. Wow.
Yeah, okay, so that's pretty cool. I've never seen anything like this. But the snow was really Grauple. They say that it has happened. What did they say? It has happened.
There's never been anything like this.
It has closed twice for snow in the Los Angeles area, Disneyland. The last time was in 1987. So there really has been something like this before. It's just been a really, really long time. Yeah, it was coming down.
I can't even imagine going on a ride and it's snowing, and they had the roller coaster there at California Adventure. So
right, perfect time to ride the Matterhorn over in Disneyland, right?
Oh, it's the most appropriate time to ride the Matterhorn. It's really immersive at that point.
So yeah, really pretty cool. I've been in Disneyland when it's a downpour rain, and it's on one hand, there's nobody in line because everyone has either run back to their hotels or ducked into a restaurant. And so the rides are kind of open, but it's miserable. No matter how big of a poncho you slap yourself in, there's still wet socks and wet shoes, and you just feel sloshy and you just can't get out of it. And it's like that for a really long time. We only did that once, and I don't think I would do it again. It just wasn't pleasant, despite the fact that it was an easy wait time on the rides.
It wasn't the happiest place on earth, Kim. Is that what you're telling me?
Not the happiest place on earth, but snow. Now I could be persuaded to frolic at Disneyland in the snow. That's pretty cool. I would like to show you.
That's real.
I would like to show you this picture that I have been remiss in not showing you guys for a couple days, and that is the Mark Thompson Show mug in the snow in Willits. This is from Sharon Kidd. She got her Mark Thompson mug and she filled it up with snow and took this really stylistic shot. Thank you, Sharon Kidd, for that. I love to see the mug full of snow. By the way, the Mark merch is for sale, and you can find all of the information you need at themarkthompsonshow.com. And he's got a great sweatshirt that I have not ordered yet, but that I really will. Here's one more weather-related picture I wanted to show you. This is up at Sugar Bowl Ski Resort. How are you going to get out? I don't know. Yeah, this is the marketing office, apparently. The marketing office looks pretty snowed in. I think they're staying there for a while.
That looks like a little bit of snow, Kim.
Just a touch of snow.
Just a little bit.
I wonder, and this is the Californian in me. You guys are going to laugh at me, but I wonder when you get snow like this, is there pressure on the windows and the glass? Can that pressure of that snow actually break your door or your windows of your house?
I had the same question. I'm also like born and raised here in the Bay Area. I just can't fathom living through all this snow.
Can you imagine opening up your door and that's what you see? I mean, we've been talking about snow in the Bay Area and we're just getting a dusting and we're happy. It's such an anomaly that we're feeling all joyful about it. But that's some real snow. And that is in the Sierra. As a matter of fact, the California Sierra Nevada mountain range has more snow right now than any other mountain range in the entire country. That's how hard the Sierra has been hit. Data maps from the National Weather Service, high Sierra elevations and above 7,000 feet have received more than 40 feet of snow since the beginning of October. The all-time record of nearly 68 feet, they say, dates back to 1952. The statewide snowpack nearing record highs, and there is more snow in the forecast for next week. So who knows how much snowfall we could see. Maybe we'll beat the record. We're again at 40 feet in the Sierra. The problem with that is they're saying if we get a little warm weather, that the snow melt will be stupendous and will lead to flooding. And then we lose all that water and it doesn't go into reservoirs or where it needs to go. It just floods the area and apparently, does us no good. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
And for all the snow activity people, it's like really exciting news to see all the snow, but it's literally so much snow that you can't even get there. So it's a lose-lose all around.
It's true. You know what I also wanted to tell you guys is that the Grapevine is remains closed because of snow and ice. So if you are headed to Southern California today or from Southern California, to points north, be prepared for that. They're not sure when they're going to reopen it. It is snowy and treacherous, as are the roads in the Sierra. So I wanted to start off with some weather pictures, especially the Willits Cup from Sharon in of course Willits. So kind of exciting. Let us talk though about this case. This is fascinating. I'm not sure if you've been following this, but they're calling it Havana syndrome. When the intelligence experts that were working in Cuba started getting sick, dizzy, fuzzy vision, headaches, and they thought maybe someone was zapping them with some type of radiation or electromagnetic something that was throwing people off. Apparently, quite a few people have been sickened by this. They're calling it Havana syndrome. And there was a big investigation as to how this happened, as to whether it was a natural phenomenon or whether someone was responsible for doing it and what could have caused it. Well, not a report, but a statement was made yesterday by the I want to say it was the National Director of Intelligence Services, saying that
it was from the Office of the Director of the Director of National Intelligence.
And I saw her get up and speak, and she said that after a years-long assessment, 5 U.S. intelligence agencies have concluded that it is very unlikely that an enemy wielding a secret weapon was behind this mysterious ailment. So no one's responsible. Like no enemy of the United States did this.
What?
But, yeah. Foreign rivals did not cause Havana syndrome. This is what the CIA says. This is what the National Intelligence Office says. This mysterious ailment known as Havana syndrome did not result from the actions of a foreign adversary. It is a long disputed theory. Hundreds of U.S. personnel were targeted and sickened by a clandestine enemy wielding energy waves as a weapon. But in all of this, it doesn't say what did cause it. So we're left to really wonder and still have a lot of questions about how these people were sickened. And I'm not a big one on conspiracy theories, but I have questions. Like, I still don't know if I buy it, that this wasn't some type of targeted attack on purpose. But that's what they're telling us. And that's what we're supposed to believe, right? The symptoms, of course, first reported at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba in 2016. I said Cuba, like I live there, Cuba. The officials said analysts examined clusters of reported cases, including at U.S. embassies, and they said they found no pattern, no common set of conditions that could link individual cases, no evidence, including forensic information or geolocation data, or that would suggest an adversary used a form of directed energy like radio waves, ultrasonic beams, no direct line of sight even to the affected personnel in some cases that were working at U.S. facilities. So that is what led them to have even more doubts that it was a directed attack. So I just, I don't know. They say there was nothing. There was no intelligence. There was just nothing about it. So nothing. You can get nothing. So what caused it? The mystery continues. It is going to be unknown for quite some time. And meanwhile, you have hundreds of people that continue to suffer from this Havana syndrome. And it'll be interesting to see if that now the investigations are over, or if they keep looking, or what's going to happen to these people, how best to treat them. But right now, I want to bring on tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. Hey, Steve. Good morning.
Hey, Kim.
Welcome to the Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you. And I want to talk about March Madness. You say, "Oh, Steve, let's talk about college basketball today."
Well, because this is this month where the business taxes come in, right?
Yes, it is. And the reason I always call it March Madness is right around now, people are starting to pay attention to their taxes. Corporate taxes are due March 15th, although you can get an extension for half a year, which most people do. And people are saying, how could this be? I work so hard. I have to pay so much in taxes. And look at these giant corporations. They're making fortunes and they're not paying taxes. What's going wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong is you're not doing tax planning. You say, well, Steve, okay, it's March 2nd, 23. And most of the time with tax planning, you have to write the check by December 31st. Right. So maybe for 23, but I'm crying about 22. I got to write this big check. I said, well, wait a minute. There's still some tax planning things that we can do in 2023 today. Okay. That can save us taxes for our 22 return. And also, a lot of times when we take a new client, they say to me, Steve, is this the stuff that you're saving the taxes on? Is all this stuff new? I said, no, it's been around for years. Well, then how come my last person didn't do that? That's why you're with us. And, we can actually go back and amend your last 3 years federal, 4 years California. And a lot of times with new clients, we wind up doing that. So basically, everybody knows me for getting people out of tax trouble. They're being audited, or they can't pay their taxes, they have some horrible tax problem, they want some tax advice. Mm-hmm. But we founded the practice on doing tax returns. As most people know, before I was a tax attorney, I was a CPA. And what I'd like to do is talk with these clients and show them the difference if we do our returns. Most people, and that's why, and I told you, that's why I became a tax lawyer when I was already a CPA first, where it's been my experience, most CPAs take the numbers you give them, scramble them around, put them on a tax form and say, here you go, and here's where you mail the check. And you say, well, wait a minute, what about the tax planning that goes along with it? So that is so vitally important. And what I want to do for small business and individuals is what the big boys do. There's all these tax laws. And remember, our system of tax law is two pieces. Everybody knows about one piece, extracting money from us. But what people don't realize, and they point to big corporations, they, well, how are they getting away with not paying any taxes? Our tax law is full of what's called incentives. In a democracy, even if something is good for the economy and the government wants us to do it, they can't order us to do it. So how does a government get us to do something that they want us to do, but they can't order us? They pay us. They pay us in the form of tax incentives, tax
Right.
benefits. But you have to know where they are. The big companies have an army of people like me. Say, do this and this and this, whatever you do, don't do that and that. What we do is for the small company, come in and say, okay, look, we know where these things are. We'll get them for you. And this is the difference in our doing your tax return rather than the person you have now. And sometimes, because, well, my CPA has been with me for so many years. That's fine. But you don't look to your CPA to do your dentistry either. So what I'm saying is there's something that an awful lot of you are overlooking. And that's major tax savings for yourself. That's what we want to see if we can do for a client. And that's why I'm saying contact us and let us show you what we can do for you.
So I was talking to someone about you the other day, and they were on the fence. They were saying, I want to go see him to have him do my taxes, but I'm worried that if he finds all these deductions or things I haven't been doing, and my taxes look so different than they did last year, and I save all kinds of money, that it's going to open me up to an audit. And I remembered your analogy about, do you not drive your car once because you got a speeding ticket? And wouldn't you want to get all the savings? But some people will just do anything to avoid the headache of an audit, I guess.
So most people are not audited. But if you are, I have a 2-word response to that. So what? That's like saying, well, you know what? Why don't you take no deductions? Why don't you not deduct your payroll? Why don't you not deduct your office rent? Maybe the IRS want to look at those. So what?
Yeah.
If you're entitled to this, and you know what? We go for you. You don't go and talk to the IRS. We do. So basically, if you do get audited, so what? We says, okay, we did X and Y and Z, and the IRS order says, well, okay, so you're entitled to that. Thank you, goodbye. Just like showing your driver's license to that cop. Okay, here's my driver's license. Here's my registration. Here's my insurance.
Right.
I have not been drinking. I've been driving within the speed limit. Okay, we just either spot check, by the way, no matter what you do, no matter how simple your return is, some of those get audited too.
Yeah. I found out yesterday, speaking of taxes, and then I'll let you go. I'm sorry I'm keeping you so long. I love talking to you. You know I do. I found out yesterday that because my county is designated a fire zone or from a previous fire, they are not having us pay taxes, and not the April deadline is been moved to October, which is interesting. Now, I wasn't affected by fire, but apparently if you live in Sonoma County, this, from what I understand, October is your filing date. Is there, for people that are affected by that, and look it up because don't trust me, right? Look up the information. But is there any benefit to waiting until October, or if you don't have to, should you just file in April?
A lot of times, putting aside what you said, just for the general population, a lot of times we put people on extension. And there's a benefit because, for example, one of the things near and dear to my heart is setting up retirement accounts, pension plans for people. When there's over 20 different types of plans, for a lot of the plans, you have up to the time of filing the return, including extension, to set it up and fund it. So let's say we have this situation. Let's assume 2022 was a real good year for you, and you made lots of money, and you're going to owe a lot of taxes. And then you spend the money on something. And then I say, oh my God, I got all these taxes to pay. So right now, today, it's March 2nd. Suppose we put you on extension, and depending on your form of business, let's say that gets you to either September 15th or October 15th. That would basically give you an extra half a year to earn money you haven't earned yet, set up a pension, put the money in there, and then deduct it from 2022. So a lot of people go on extension for that reason.
Okay. All right. So I guess there is a reason to wait. So that's wonderful. 888-TAX-DEAL, MoskowitzLLP.com. Thank you again for being the founding sponsor of the Mark Thompson Show. We are so grateful to you, especially now that we've surpassed 10,000 subscribers. And you can say you were the one that helped us make it all happen.
A real pleasure, Kim.
Yeah. Thank you. See you
Thanks
soon.
so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. I know. I find him interesting. And it's crazy because I don't find taxes interesting, but when he starts talking about taxes, he just gets this like fire and passion in his eyes, and it becomes interesting to me. So Steve Moskowitz, 888 Tax Deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. Albert, this is the Mark Thompson Show, and we are,
The Mark Thompson Show.
We were talking about all that weather that we've been getting, and there's one thing that, unless you have an electric vehicle, maybe you haven't been thinking about really, and that is electric vehicles. Apparently, batteries in electric vehicles do not respond well to cold weather. I had no idea this is the case. I don't have an electric vehicle, though I would like to get one. I have been priced out of that market, but automotive experts are saying EV batteries are better at taking a charge when it's warm weather, not in cold weather. This California historic prolonged cold winter storm that's going on has EV drivers waiting a lot longer to get a charge onto those batteries. And the batteries stop charging well below capacity as well. So drivers apparently registering a little less than 600,000 EVs, and that is about 42% of all electric vehicles in the nation. So we have the most electric vehicles in the country, and we've got this cold snap, and now apparently people are having issues. So it's like only being able to fill your tank, I don't know, 60, 70% instead of the full Magilla? I don't know. But yeah, people are having trouble with that. Do you have an electric vehicle, Albert?
I don't. I've been thinking about it, like a plug-in
Yeah.
hybrid. That's something more practical, and especially with the gas prices right now have just been increasing. And I
Yeah.
could tell I have a really cheap gas station close to me, and they're at a pretty absurd price, which was very surprising. But I don't, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
think we're still early into the electronic vehicles, and I know the technology is getting better, but hopefully they can fix the technology to combat the weather, because not only will you lose charge in the middle of your long drive to LA from the Bay Area, but you'll also
Right.
be frozen out and you can't move. So
Oh
hopefully they
no.
figure it out.
A lot of comments in the chat about this. Randy, he knew it all along. I'm just learning. He said it's actually a well-known thing about EV batteries. We just don't have to deal with it much in California. Yeah, Eric says, my hybrid had warnings about driving in the snow in the manual. Good thing you read the manual, right? RTFM. John Smith says a lot of Teslas stuck on Highway 50 and 80 because of this and charging issues. Oh no, Tesla stuck in the snow. Walter says, I lived in Reno. They're heavier cars and they stay on the road better. So, okay, that's interesting. Plug-in hybrids don't count in California. It has to be an EV, Albert. I'm sorry. Chris, California is a humongous state. There are many places that have cold Montana weather in California. That's true, Chris, but I would argue this. If you live in, let's just say Tahoe, or you live in a place in California that's often cold, likely will snow in the winter, or you can count on it. There's ski resorts in your area. There's a couple places in California like that. You live in the Sierra foothills, near Yosemite, all places like that. Usually, you got a truck or you got an all-wheel drive. You've planned ahead. You know where you live. You're not the one buying the Tesla. You're not the one in the small, Volt or in the Prius. That's not the car that you're driving around in the snow. So really, it's the visitors, I think, that try to drive up to Tahoe in their Tesla SUV and don't understand that that's not going to, work for you. JR says batteries are less efficient in the cold. That's what they're saying. Yeah. Teslas preheat the batteries if you tell it in advance you're charging. Otherwise, it tells you it will take longer to charge. Oh, that's smart. Joe, if weather like this becomes more common in California, and we all move to electric, you're going to have a big problem. Yeah,
Yeah, Gavin, right? Gavin wants to eventually make California all electric or hybrid.
Yeah, by 2030, we're supposed to, the only new vehicles, brand new, not used, but new vehicles we'll be able to buy will be electric here in California. It doesn't mean you can't go to another state and buy a gas-powered car, and it doesn't mean you can't buy a used one. But
yep, 2030 is the year. 2030 is the year for this.
Oh, thanks, Albert. I feel like we have problems with that though, because While it's a lofty goal, we haven't put in the infrastructure we need. Last summer, we had power warnings that said don't charge your electric vehicle between the hours of, I think it was 4 and 9 p.m. That's when a lot of people get home and they want to plug things in. So if we don't have the power grid infrastructure ready for that, and now we may be having some chilly winters, I don't know. I have questions. I like the goal, but I have questions about whether it's truly feasible. Jammer DC, Tesla has preconditioning functions built in. So when you plug in a supercharger in to charge the destination, it will start to the condition to condition the car on the way. Okay, I think that's the same thing that someone else was saying, that they have. They're smart about it, that they you can preheat it or do something to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like we've had electric vehicles for a while, but we really haven't. So I
No.
think obviously with the technology, and I think it's a huge market to not be able to sell an electric car in a cold area. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of cold areas in this country, and I'm pretty sure they want to make some money off of that.
William says he also operates at lower capacity in cold weather. Don't we all just kind of bundle up and stay inside? We're all low capacity. And Anonymous writes, the EV Hummer battery recalled since it doesn't seal water at 24 inches depth. Each battery costs $60,000. Holy moly. That's a lot of money for a battery. Thank you for that discussion about electric vehicles and chilly weather. I don't necessarily know that this is going to be a yearly thing where we see snow like we have this year. It seems more like an anomaly, but with weather changing, weather patterns changing, we'll see how it goes. And maybe in the coming years, it's something to rethink. I think we also need to have a commitment to the environment, which brings me to want to promote Belinda Weymouth and It's the Planet Stupid, and that is coming up it's 11:35, right, Albert?
11:35. She has two good and positive eco stories, which is something that
Okay.
we hope out of her, because sometimes they're kind of grim, but this week we got two good ones.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of news, and then we're going to talk to Jefferson Graham. It is Tech Thursday, and he's got some really interesting things to discuss. I saw in the chat Jefferson popped in. I think he might need a link to the show, Albert. So
Yeah, I just sent him one.
Oh, okay, cool.
I saw that comment. Jeff, just make sure, just reply to the email. I sent one over to you.
Awesome. Okay, let's do a little news.
The Mark Thompson Show.
There it is. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show. Of course, Mark Thompson off today as he travels to Washington, D.C. to be with his family. But let's get a little news going on this fine Thursday on The Mark Thompson Show with more than 10.2 thousand subscribers. Alex Murdaugh's defense lawyer says authorities failed miserably in their murder investigation into Murdaugh's wife and his son. By the way, this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Let's put a picture of him up here for you. The lawyer claimed the prosecution's theory that Murdaugh's gathering storm of financial lies led to the killings, and they said that was ridiculous. The once wealthy, prominent attorney admits he lied to police about his whereabouts the night of the murders, but he insists he didn't kill his wife Maggie or his son Paul. The top Republican in the Senate calling out Democrats for being too soft on crime. Oh no. While speaking on the Senate floor, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said Democrats have made public safety a low priority at both the federal and the local level. He said residents in cities like Chicago and New York feel unsafe, noting Chicago voters tossed out incumbent Mayor Lori Lightfoot this week, supposedly an indication that they feel unsafe. Newly unsealed documents, court documents, offering more details about the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Documents show police seized multiple items from murder suspect Brian Koberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania. Officers seized a knife, a handgun, they say, with 3 magazines, a cell phone, a laptop, and black face masks as well. Let's talk about top NFL prospect Jalen Carter back at the Combine in Indianapolis after turning himself into police in Georgia last night. Multiple reports say Carter has returned to finish his interviews, his measurements, and other activities. The star defensive tackle surrendered to police in Athens, Georgia, for misdemeanor charges related to a fatal crash that involved a former teammate, Devin Wilcock, and team staff member Chandler LaCroix. This is kind of a messy business. Speaking of people turning themselves into police, there's a rapper. Do you know who Travis Scott is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
he's a pretty
Travis
big.
Scott.
That's
Yeah.
right. He
He had
plans
his
to
own
turn.
meal at McDonald's.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. and
Okay.
I tried one for Mark because we talked about it on Station X. So I said, Mark, I'm gonna go to McDonald's. I'm gonna check this thing out.
All right. How was it?
It was okay.
All right.
They made me order a Sprite, so I didn't like that. I like Sprite, but
Not that much. Yeah.
No.
So Travis Scott, unfortunately, falling on some hard times. Apparently, McDonald's was the highlight because now he is turning himself into police on assault and mischief charges following a New York City nightclub punch. The NYPD responding to a Manhattan club about 3 o'clock Wednesday morning after Scott allegedly punched a sound engineer straight in the face. It is the latest controversy to involve Scott, who's still dealing with legal fallout from a Houston tragedy in 2021 where 10 people died at his Astro World Music Festival. Remember that, when people got crushed in the crowd?
They got trampled, unfortunately. Yeah, very, very sad.
All this talk about McDonald's has made me want to do this story. You ready? A new study says In-N-Out's cheeseburger is the second healthiest fast food cheeseburger in America. Second? All right. If you can call a cheeseburger healthy, right? Analysts looked at data from several fast food restaurants comprised by gambling.com. It's a gamble if you eat it. The rankings are based on sugar, fat, salt, caloric content. Texas fast food chain Whataburger took the top spot for having the healthiest cheeseburger.
Wow, look at Texas. Who would have thought? Who would have thought for Texas?
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, please call Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL or at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great, baby.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters. No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words. I apologize to all who have been hurt.
I stand corrected. I misspoke. My words upset so many people.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
God bless America. The end.
There's never been anything like this.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong? Huh?
Who is having that conversation?
It's fantastic.
That's not fake. That's real.
The science is ridiculous.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir. If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at? This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
There is no defense for my conduct. It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Don't ever use that word.
You get nothing.
What's a guilty pleasure to you, though?
Seriously, what the
It is the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you for hanging out with us, even though Mark isn't here today. I got Albert alongside, and coming up is Jefferson Graham. But I wanted to tell you that I am so grateful for all the people who have kicked in and donated to the show. Of course, after news is when we throw out some gratitude for all the people who have stepped in to crowdfund the show. Listen, we appreciate you just being here with us and participating in the chat and, being part of our crew here on the Mark Thompson Show. But I do want to thank Calvin Wong, who now doesn't think I'm great after I botched his name.
Thank you.
Calvin Wong sending us so many stories and being such a part of the show, and now a $10 contribution and nice words, which I'm
Calvin
so grateful
Wong, the
for.
shadow producer, trying to take my job. Calvin, you're on my heels. I can
He's
feel
doing
you getting closer.
But Calvin, we appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much for that. Very much appreciate it. Walter, aloha, woohoo! I think Walter's in Maui. My mom is in Maui right now.
Thank you so much.
So maybe you
That
guys
sounds
will
like
run
a
into
horrible
each other.
time being in Maui at this time of year. They don't want to
No.
enjoy the California snow.
No, but I will tell you that it's whale season in Maui. So they're seeing the whales go by. And it's also rainy there. They've had some flooding issues and a lot of interesting weather going on. It's warm, but it's also rainy. So, although my mom had said she had to go out and buy a long sleeve shirt because all she brought with her was summer stuff. Walter, $9.99. Drive it like you stole it, Kim. Aloha, baby. That's right. I'll steal it today and I'll steal it again tomorrow, Walter. I'm on it. So thank you for that.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Okay, Albert, that's a major announcement. 77, 7s across the board. Thank you, Kevin Hobbs. Kevin Hobbs with the cool numbers, always doing that cool number thing you do. Kevin Hobbs, thank you for the contribution.
Thank you.
Can I get a British thank you? Do we have that as well?
Thank you so much.
Kevin Hobbs, thank you very much.
shout
The Mark
out.
Thompson Show appreciates you more than you'll ever know. We really, truly do. So thank you for that contribution. And we're so grateful, really, honestly. And if you would like to contribute, the super chat is open. You can also go to the website. It is themarkthompsonshow.com. That is where you will see the PayPal, the Patreon, where you can set up a monthly thing. And again, we appreciate whatever you can do. And if you can't do anything, we appreciate you for being here. So yeah, that's how the website looks. You can click on the Patreon or the PayPal. And also, even if you're not intending to contribute, it's kind of a cool website just to kick around on. You can find links to the show there. You can check out the Mark merch and all that type of stuff. So yeah, check out the
podcast
website
right here. You just come to the website. If
Look
you're
at that.
already on a browser, just hit play and it'll hit the most recent episode.
Oh, that's so convenient.
Audio-wise, so
we're so high tech over here.
I
We're
don't know
awesome.
how they did this, but
my husband does the website. That's pretty cool. But speaking of high tech, let us now go to our Thursday tech segment with Jefferson Graham, former columnist for USA Today. Columnist, right? Columnist or writer, should I say? Columnist?
I always like columnists because
He's
I wrote a
columnist.
column. I also wrote articles, but I wrote a column,
All right. And now you've got Photo Walks TV, which is really exciting. You talk about photography and ways to use your iPhone or cell phone to get some really, really good pictures. But let's talk tech because you had some interesting stories to bring up today.
Shall we start with the Bing chatbot, which we've been talking a lot about. The chatbot is probably the most popular new consumer tech application that's come out ever, they say, because fastest growing, 100 million users in a month is unbelievable. And so the whole thing is that you can ask questions to this chatbot and now have a conversation. And Bing, Microsoft, is trying to revive Bing by putting the ChatGPT into Bing, but you can only use it if you go on a waiting list and you get your turn. Well, I got my turn this week, and it's wild, it's wacky, it's a little crazy. So,
what did you ask it?
Okay, so the good part is you say, find me 5 hotels that are affordable in San Francisco, and it spits them right out. and then it says, would you like to book? Would you can I tell you more about the location? And it's great. It's great because if you did that same search on Google right now, you get booking.com and expedia.com and Kayak, and you have to sit there and dive through the stuff, and the stuff isn't affordable, and these were affordable. But then it gets a little crazy when you start saying like things like, tell me about myself. I want to hear about me. And so up comes that I'm the father of my sister. I'm married to a Hollywood actress. Those are two things that kind of got me that I thought were a little off.
Wait, it said you're married to a Hollywood actor?
Actress.
Oh, are you?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
and sadly, I didn't get a screenshot of it because it was all happening so fast until I realized I had to screenshot everything I was doing because there's no history of this. So it had me married to a woman who's an actress who's married to a guy who makes pretzels, and he's an actor too. His name is Shappy, and so because I did an article about him, they got all construed. I then said, "Tell me about the best episode ever of Photo Walks," and they said, "Well, it's hard to pick, but the one in Paris was really good." And it just described everything that I did in Paris. And it said, would you like to hear some of Jeff's photo tips? And I said, sure. And then it spit them all out, and it was unbelievable. And so, Microsoft has a long way to go to catch up to Google because Google has a 90% market share and Bing has a 10% market share. But here's my prediction. Everybody will be trying it. Everybody's going to try it because I don't know that you'll stick with it, but you're all going to try it. Now, the other thing I have to tell you is that as part of this new period, you could only ask 6 questions at a time, and then they cut you off. And so if I continue
I want to genie in a bottle, you have to be very, thoughtful about what you ask.
So if I want to hear more about Paris and I've asked my questions, gone. And then at a certain point on my first day, they said, you have asked too many questions today. You must come back in 24 hours.
And how long are the answers about? I mean, what if you were trying to do this write your paper for you thing? Will it just go on and on and on? Or are the answers very...
6. Well, it depends. It depends on what you ask, but you could always go to openai.com, which is where the chat GPT lives, and you don't have any limits there. The reason there are limits there is this New York Times reporter spent 2 hours talking to chat GPT on Bing, and at one point, Bing asked Kevin Roose to leave his wife and marry Bing instead. So,
and they're embarrassed by that?
They were a little embarrassed, so that they think if you cut them off, you won't go crazy.
So, the Mark Thompson Show, I believe that this is Mark, maybe sitting at the airport, would like me to ask you more about why you were married to your sister.
No, I'm the father of my sister.
That's not fake. That's real.
Yeah.
That's what it told you? You're the father of your sister?
And that I have 3 kids.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
So
wait, can you say that again? You had 3 kids?
Me up with my father. Oh, so that's what was going on there.
Awkward.
But let me tell you another good thing that I liked about it is that they tell you where all the sources come from. Google, they never tell you anything. So this thing actually spits out. We checked these 6 websites, and this is how we came up with that information. So that was pretty good.
So I'm kind of confused. Can you explain the difference between, and I think wasn't Bing caught for just regurgitating Google results at one point? That's why I think no one uses Bing, because they were busted because they were using Google search results.
I don't think so. I think they had their own. I mean, it basically it was Yahoo, and then Microsoft started taking over Yahoo search, and then Microsoft had their own kind of search, and nobody really cared. And then Microsoft said, "We'll pay you to use Bing. We will pay you to prove that Bing is better," and nobody even wanted their money because they, here's the thing: Bing's not that bad. It really isn't. It's just that Google is so good, and that we have Google Docs and Google and Gmail and Google Calendar, and we live in Google's ecosystem. But there's a lot of people. More people probably live in Microsoft's ecosystem. They just made a decision not to use the search engine.
Yeah. But, and once you have Gmail and you rely on Google Docs and you do all these other things, it's like, why switch over? Why you're happy with what you got. But I'm kind of confused about the open AI, is it all the same, or do different companies have different versions of it? That is Chat GPT Bing, or is it Google, or what?
It's one of those things that it's open source. So they invented the product, but other people can take it and then add on top of it. It's like Android software.
Right.
You know, there's the Samsung Galaxy, and there's the Google Pixel, and there's the LG doesn't exist anymore. The LG phones don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But everybody has a different version of Android. So now there's ChatGPT, which is a software, but then there's different versions of it. Microsoft's version is very different on Bing than what's on OpenAI.com, because I tried playing the same games with OpenAI and I didn't get very far.
Okay. Blue Spark asks a question. Is it true that DuckDuckGo uses Bing? And I like it fine.
Yes. DuckDuckGo and the Brave browser, which is a great alternative to Chrome, and of course Yahoo. It's all Bing.
John Smith is a little paranoid about the privacy stuff going on with the Chat GPT. He says they want to collect your phone and personal data, or else they won't let you sign up.
News to me, because they didn't ask me for that when I signed up.
Oh, I don't know. Here's a comment about father of his sister. That means he's a, you know what, Samuel Jackson says a lot, but you're not. It's not. They got it wrong, Eddie. They got it wrong.
I am not the father of my sister, who, according to according to Bing, is 22 years old, and she's a little older than that. So.
Well, that's exciting and fun stuff. What else you got talking about tech
There
stuff?
was a really good article in the Wall Street Journal this week about people that go to bars and have their passcodes stolen off their iPhones.
Oh, no.
That somebody will say, "Let me see your iPhone for a minute," and you hand it over, and they've already watched you opening it up.
What?
And just like that, they can get in, turn off, Find My iPhone. They can change the password, and then your phone. They have taken over control of your phone, and they've drained your bank account. So
I am so not careful with all the information on my phone. You think I would be, but you never think that someone is going to be able to remember your code like that.
Well, you and I probably don't go to a lot of bars, and you know, it's just it sounds
I did
like,
yesterday.
You know,
I was at a bar yesterday for like the first time in forever.
I'm relatively careful too, but the thing that you want to be, the big takeaway is there is a feature on the iPhone that will you can store your passwords, and so when you open up an app like Apple Cash, Venmo, things like that, they'll put in your password, which means that if somebody steals your phone, your passwords are stored in there, and they don't have to go through anything to open up those payment apps. And that's how these people got their money drained. So there is a setting. Let's go there together. I just want to make sure I get it right. It's
phones in hand, people. We're doing it together.
Okay. It's in general.
Well, what is it? What that we're doing before we do it?
We're opening up. I just want to say, check my newsletter on Saturday. I'll have complete directions. But you want to turn off the stored passwords.
Okay.
You know, use a password manager. Don't have Apple have your stored passwords, because that's a recipe for potential disaster if you hand over your phone to people.
Yeah.
And use two-factor authentication.
Yeah. That's key. Two-factor authentication saves people a lot of time and trouble.
I think we have a lot of comedians today.
Says it could have been worse. You could have said you were married to Mark Thompson, and then Trevor says, "Yeah, you could do worse than Mark." I agree with that. I mean, at least you'd be laughing a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
So if people would like the instructions for how to turn off the stored passwords and they want to go to your newsletter, can you talk a little bit about how they do that?
Okay, so my newsletter is jeffersongraham.substack.com. It's free. It comes out every weekend. And we'll also be talking about this more in fuller detail on my live show, which is at 2:00 today.
That's really exciting.
Yes, photo walk talks. Mm-hmm. It all ties in. Believe it or not, there's a photo angle here, and you will hear it, because we're also talking about iCloud and what's wrong with iCloud for photo backup a lot, as far as I'm concerned. And some of these people that got their phones hacked lost 100% access to all of their photos, and Apple won't let them back in. So
Oh, what a mess. JR
Yeah.
says, I use long pins that don't trust someone wouldn't use my fingerprint or Face ID to unlock my phone. When you're talking about phone security, do you think it's better to have a number that you type in? Because even Josue says passwords are really a tricky thing, and that even password managers are sort of fishy to him.
Well, I love my password manager, Dashlane. I swear by it, and I have over 100 passwords in there. It's treated me really well. I'm not a fan of the PIN process on the iPhone, and I wish that Face ID worked. For me, it doesn't work. I don't know about you, Kim, and I don't know what other viewers, how their experience has been. I wish it worked. It doesn't. If it did, it would be incredible, and the people that got their accounts drained wouldn't have had their accounts drained.
Another question for you. Huge in Japan asks, would you recommend Nord's password manager? I haven't looked into that one.
Yeah, I've never used it. I only know Dashlane because that's what I use, and I love it.
Okay. I wonder when we leave this portion of the conversation, I feel like the message is be careful if you use a PIN on your iPhone or your cell phone, be more careful about flashing that thing around.
Well, yeah, be more careful.
Yeah.
Don't have the stored passwords in there. I mean, just do a common sense thing. Open up your banking apps and see how easy it is to open them up. And then think about how easy it would be for someone else to open up. And then say to yourself, could they open up my banking apps? Could they?
Yeah. And then
that's really the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Blue Spark, nobody lets me use password anymore. Now I have to go to password 1. I've done that thing with the passwords where I love it when you're signing up for a password and they say weak, strong, stronger, so that don't use the weak one. I like when they tell you what they think of your password.
Yeah, and tell me that your password's not Kim123. Please tell me that.
No, my passwords are usually complicated, but the problem is they're all a variation of the same thing. And so then I forget what password I used for what website. So then I start writing things down on these sticky notes all over my office, and I don't know which one is which, and I can't find anything. So then I'm always like, forgot password, so it has to send it to my email. But here's one thing I noticed, and this happened to my mom. She got scammed, and they had access to her computer, and what they did is they went into her Gmail and added a forward so that every email she got was getting forwarded to these scam people. So every time she changed a password, every time she did anything, or asked for a website to send her password information, it was all being forwarded to the scammers. So
wow, that's terrible. I've never heard that story before, and I've heard a lot of them. That's awful.
So make sure your Google Gmail, your whatever email you use, has no forwarding on it, that no one had gained access and sent it on its way.
Yeah. I think it's that time for me to pick up the guitar. What do you think?
Is it already, or you don't have any more tech news for us?
Oh, I do have more tech news. What other tech news? Well, first of all, be sure to watch. Be sure to watch today at 2:00. Be sure to ask questions. And even more so than today, be sure to tune in next Thursday because I have a very, very special guest.
I heard she's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yes. Kim McAllister is going to join us. And you'll see the other side of Kim, right? She won't be doing the news.
No, it's when I let the hair down and go crazy.
Yeah.
All right, what do you?
So that'll be fun. Go ahead.
No, you go. You.
Oh, I was just going to say that I asked ChatGPT to name me the 5 greatest TV themes of all time.
Okay.
They came up with a list that I didn't agree with, but I'd love to know everybody's top 5 of all time, whether they want to put that in the chat, whether they want to tweet me at Twitter at Jefferson Graham, whether they want to tell me on the live show today, because I will play those 5 songs for you next Thursday. Okay.
All right.
5 greatest TV themes.
Are we starting with number 1 or number 5?
I'm starting with one of what I believe is the top, one of the 5 greatest TV themes of all time.
All right, in the chat, if you can guess it, that's good.
Can you get it? Oh, do you know it already, Kim?
Mark says The Office. No?
Nobody knows it?
I don't know. Well, a lot of guesses. People's Court, MASH, A-Team, MacGyver, Magnum, Cheers, CSI Miami. No, we don't know.
Thank you. Naked gets it.
Succession.
Okay.
Huge in Japan says that's a hard one. I think that's a hard one. Yeah.
It's coming back. It's coming back real soon. Anybody?
We don't know. Rockford.
No.
No.
Bob Newhart.
Oh, you're going old school. Were these were these on the top 5 list on the Chat GPT?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
All right.
Okay. This is easy. Okay.
Okay. The Tom and Jerry Show.
I'm Popeye the Sailor
Oh,
Man.
Popeye. Eric actually got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's another really old one.
SF Tesla and JR. Sounds familiar.
Anybody?
Is it Green Acres? No.
Mr. A horse is a horse.
Mr. Ed, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just because somebody mentioned this one, I'll have to play it. You know that one.
Laverne and Shirley.
And then
that's Rockford. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome,
So
Jefferson Graham. You're awesome. Thank you.
I don't see the chat. So did anybody mention the 5 greatest songs?
Well, people did list their favorite songs that they thought, and I think that's what I thought they were talking about your song, but they were not. They were listing their favorites. So, The Office was listed. What else?
I'd like to,
CSI Miami was
Friends,
listed.
The Friends theme song.
Yeah. Magnum PI, Hawaii 5-0. Friends. Yep.
Congratulations on 10,000. But before I go, I'm 500 away from 10,000. I'm thrilled that Mark got there first because he deserves it, and Kim deserves it, and Albert deserves it. I'm just a little guy trying to do a little thing here, but he's putting on a radio show online, so it's amazing. So put your phone over mine. Make me a happy guy. 50, 100 people. What do you think? Let's get me to 10,000. I want to be in the same club.
I think you can do it. Well, how long have you been on the air?
Longer than you.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well,
Oh, yeah.
I think you can pull it off, and I think it would be a great. So please subscribe, and 510 to go. Let's see if we can push them over the edge. Lovely.
With your
All right.
iron rod.
That's right. Jefferson
And
Graham, thank you
thank you.
for being here. You're so awesome. We're going to see you on the Nikki Maduro show today as well. Just a little reminder that you will be with us on Nikki's show for a few minutes to talk about what you're doing on your own YouTube show today.
Yes, 2 o'clock. Please
What?
tune in.
Okay. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You gonna play us out? Awesome. Bye. Jefferson Graham, everybody. We appreciate him being here on the Mark Thompson Show. Let's get to a little bit of news because we have stories from the sky coming up. We have Belinda Weymouth coming up on this Thursday without Mark Thompson. If I had to guess, I would say that right now Mark is at the airport. He's sitting there looking around at all these people that are waiting for their flights.
Probably at the bar.
You think he's saddled up to the bar?
He's at the bar, just watching whatever sports game or sports channel is on, just sitting there waiting for his flight.
I think he's watching us and yelling every time we mess something up. It's a possibility, I think. Yeah, I think he might be. No. So, Mark, if you're out there watching, thank you, and have safe travels today. But let's do a little bit of news before we move on with the show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. This is a story that we have been covering on the Mark Thompson Show. It is the Ohio toxic train derailment. And now Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is calling on President Biden to see the site of this train derailment in East Palestine for himself. This plea coming as residents are reporting illnesses about a month after the derailment. The Republican governor also calling on Congress to take action, saying the train should have been classified as carrying highly hazardous material. That is exactly right. And I think Mark would talk about how former President Trump had some of the regulations overturned that may have prevented this catastrophe from happening in the first place. And now this Republican governor wants the restrictions put back into place. So, okay, good idea. Let's do that. Meanwhile, Republicans like Mike DeWine continue to call on President Biden to go see the site of this toxic train derailment. Mr. DeWine, by the way, has said testing shows the water is safe in this area, the environment is safe, and yet again, people a month later still reporting illnesses. Florida Senator Marco Rubio wants to make daylight savings time permanent. That is what he says. The Republican introducing a bill to do so this week. He put forward a similar bill last year that passed in the Senate but failed to clear the House. China says the United States is selling over $600 million worth of military equipment to Taiwan, and that is really raising tensions in the area. China's foreign ministry spokesperson says the country would take resolute and strong measures to firmly safeguard its sovereignty. China says America's move violates its claim to the self-ruled Taiwan. So tensions escalate. First, we had the balloons. Now we got this. A lower court ruling that threw out felony indictments against 7 former state officials charged in the Flint, Michigan water crisis has been upheld. The Michigan Court of Appeals agreed with the ruling from Genesee County Circuit Judge Elizabeth Kelly at issue a Michigan Supreme Court ruling on the one-man grand jury process used to issue criminal indictments. And a new record has been set for the most expensive football jersey ever sold at auction. I'll tell you the jersey. Tell me how much you think it costs. Joe Montana, don't look it up in the chat over there. Joe Montana's jersey from The Drive, which saw the San Francisco 49ers drive 92 yards to win Super Bowl 23, sold for, what do you think, Albert?
I don't know. I do have this thing, though.
Thank you very much. In the chat, how much do you think Joe Montana's jersey from The Drive, which saw the 49ers drive 92 yards to win Super Bowl 23. A lot of 49ers fans out there. Oh, you guys already know the answer. All right.
A couple same answers. But,
a lot of people are saying, some people are saying 800,000. Some people say 3 million, 250,000. The answer is it sold for more than $1.2 million for a jersey. $1.2 million. It breaks the previous record set by the sale of Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey last year. That one went for a measly $480,000. But
what?
Joe Montana's, yeah, it went for 1.2 mil. A little more than that, actually.
And the funny part about that Tom Brady jersey is that they thought that he was retiring, so they they sold that jersey and they bought it, but then he obviously came back and had
I wonder if that
he played out his divorce in front of all of us.
Does that make it worth less if you? Does it make it worth more if you thought that the person whose jersey it was retiring and this would be the last one, and then they come back? Is then your investment kind of downgraded a bit?
I'm sure it did. Like I'm sure he could get pennies on the dollar for that jersey, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that he could market it as this was his last jersey that he wore when he was good. Maybe, I don't know, because last season wasn't the best for Mr. Good-looking Brady.
Yeah, he is pretty good looking. Yeah, Joe Montana. I feel like of all the football superstars, when I think of the best, it's Joe Montana who I think of. I'm not a huge football fan, but even I, remember that time in history where the 49ers were on top of the world. So $1.2 million. Let's hope nothing happens to it. I always feel like if you buy a piece of cloth that, could get damaged or stained or burned, hopefully they have it behind glass in a very safe, climate controlled environment. So your $1.2 million isn't going to go up in smoke. Okay, so let's get to stories from the sky.
All right, let me just hit one of these real quick.
Okay.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Now what do you call him?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret now?
Does an itty bitty bit of weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
It is the Mark Thompson Show, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL. Thank you for being here with us on this Thursday. Of course, Mark has the day off, and someone wrote, and I thought that was pretty accurate, Tranquil, that Mark could do a live version of Stories from the Sky today. Mark, of course, flying off to Washington, D.C. to be with his parents. His father has some medical issues that he's been working through, so Mark is headed back to do that. He will be live from Washington, D.C. next week, but it's me and Albert for today and tomorrow, and we are going to get to it right now, Albert. It is Stories from the Sky.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
Okay, first up on the Stories from the Sky docket comes this one from Spirit Airlines. A flight was diverted. It landed safely in Jacksonville, Florida, Wednesday after the crew reported a battery in an overhead bin was on fire. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating now. This involved an Airbus A320 that left the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, was headed to Orlando. Spirit Airlines Flight 259 landed safely at Jacksonville about 2 p.m. after the
Of course
crew...
it was in Florida, Kim.
Of course it was. I'm thinking it. Texas and Florida. It's like a double whammy there. The crew reports a battery on fire in an overhead bin. It was believed to have been caused by a guest item. The fire had to be extinguished in mid-flight. They taxied to the terminal in Jacksonville without incident. And the quote is, "We thank our crew and guests for their quick actions to ensure the safety of everyone aboard. And we thank first responders for meeting the aircraft as well." That's exciting. 10 people had to be removed from the flight by emergency services after landing, but it looks like everybody is okay. No life-threatening conditions. It doesn't say exactly if it was smoke inhalation or what happened, but that's pretty scary. Little battery fire aboard the plane. Anytime
It's scary, but you know when you're going on flights and you're checking in your bag, they always ask you, do you have any lithium batteries in your bag?
Yeah.
So I think it's better that it did happen in the cabin because there are people there who could put it out. But if that thing happened under in the where you put the bags, that would have been really, really bad.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think of that. And how many people do have batteries like that are,
Exactly.
stowed
So
in their
it's
checked
important.
luggage?
You always think it's weird. You're like checking in your bag, like, do you have any lithium batteries or e-cigarettes? You're like, what? but then it's best that you keep it on your carry-on. So.
And so they just ask you to turn it off, right?
Turn it off, or if it's a spare battery, just to hold it and keep it in your bag, your carry-on. But if it's like in the laptop, as long as your laptop's off, it's fine.
All right, next story. This one is about a Pennsylvania man who is now in custody. This is wild. He allegedly tried to place an explosive on an airplane at the Lehigh Valley International Airport.
What?
This happened on Monday. Yes, this is this man's name is Mark, not our Mark, different Mark. He checked in at the Allegiant Airline desk at the airport on Monday morning. He said he had a flight booked to Orlando Sanford International Airport in Florida. Are we sensing a theme? The TSA screened his baggage, and an alarm went off indicating it contained a suspicious item.
My bad. I'm sorry.
The TSA found a circular compound about 3 inches in diameter, wrapped in wax-like paper, a clear plastic wrap hidden in the baggage. The immediate area of the airport was evacuated. The TSA notified the police. They came. The FBI came. The bomb technician came, examined the device. They say that it had a granular type of powder in it that was a mixture of flash powder used in commercial grade fireworks. What are you trying to bring on the plane, dude? The technician said it had a fuse to ignite explosives. Yes, a fuse to be part of this device, which was indeed an explosive. Investigators said they found a can of butane, a lighter, a pipe with white powder residue, a wireless drill with cordless batteries, and 2 GFCI outlets taped together with black tape. Then, over the overhead system in the airport, because he wasn't standing next to his bag at that time, they page him. Mark, could you please come to white courtesy phone A, whatever, and can you please come to the security desk, is what they said. And security cameras captured a man leaving the airport at the lower level exit. That's how they found him. The FBI ends up contacting someone who knows this man. They got a picture of him. They got a picture of his license plate, and they arrested him. He was arrested at his home on Monday night, now charged with possession of an explosive in an airport and possessing or attempting to place or attempting to have placed an explosive or incendiary device on an aircraft. He is still in custody. That is scary. But also, you wonder, you have this obvious explosive and all this stuff, the pipe, the circular thing, the wires, the wireless drill. How is that not going to show up on the picture as it goes through the security.
It's a wild idea. It just might work.
Like that's a clear. What is that? Right? The security agent would be an obvious one. So
yeah, and I'm glad. Well, I'm glad with the response and the authorities were quick to it. That it did work. Like they caught this guy who was blatantly trying to do something really dumb. Like Mark would say, it's a bad caper. It's just not really. It's not a well thought out. It's a shallow grave. We talked about it last week. It's a shallow grave. You got to dig deeper.
Did they x-ray and look at all the checked baggage too? If this guy had checked it, would the same result have happened, I wonder?
Yeah, so there's other processes. So they'll send the bags like down below, and they have a whole bunch of TSA people down there too, with every airline to check every single bag. Like every time I check in a golf bag, they go through my golf bag.
Okay.
Every single time. And they never put my clubs back where it came from. So I know they look through it, and they always leave you a kind note that they look through your bag.
You did a lot of internet searches about bombs on airplanes today. So I think the FBI might be knocking on your door any minute.
Unfortunately, I did have to find these stories, and in finding those stories, I did have some very sketchy Google searches. So if I'm not here for the next few shows, if I'm not here for the next few shows, please send a lookout for me.
We'll come bail you out. We have video evidence that it was for a good reason, right? All right, the next story on Stories from the Sky, a young traveler sent a bomb threat via airdrop to fellow passengers, and they're now facing charges. This is in the fine state of Texas, where after allegedly sending a bomb threat to fellow passengers via airdrop on an American Airlines flight, there is a young traveler facing some charges, we could say. The Texas Department of Public Safety, American Airlines, they say American Airlines was taxiing out at El Paso for a routine flight to Chicago. This one was last week, when passengers aboard received an airdrop request that read, "I have a bomb. I would like to share a photo." Oh my God, what if you're on the plane and you get that message? What are you even thinking at that moment? The aircraft had 125 passengers and 8 crew members aboard. And what happened? Went right back to the gate. That's all it takes. An airdrop threat, and you are back at the gate, and everybody's off that plane. Subsequent investigations result in the identification of a juvenile subject who confessed to the airdrop. Evidence supporting the confession discovered in the suspect's cell phone. The cell phone seized as evidence. A bomb squad search of the aircraft passengers and luggage was negative for any explosives. The threat mitigated, deemed non-credible. So, yeah, the suspect ended up at the Juvenile Probation Department in El Paso County, and that's it. The FlightAware data shows the flight eventually left El Paso and arrived in Chicago 5 hours late. But that's quite a concerning moment when you get that airdrop text. Pretty sketchy, pretty scary. And
unfortunately, I'm sure the kid thought it was really funny, and I think as a kid I would think that would be really funny too, but I don't think they understood the consequences of that at all.
I don't know if you wonder if the kid was trying to, was being forced to go somewhere they didn't want to go or something. It's like sometimes when it's a bomb threat hoax at a school, there's a test somebody didn't want to take. Why was he doing this? Was it for humor reasons, or was it because he really didn't want to go? And when you airdrop something, it's not so hard to figure out where that file came from, right?
Yeah, and if you're just a general iPhone user, I'm sounding like Jefferson Graham right now. Just turn off your airdrop to just your friends or just your contacts, okay? So you don't get these random messages or unsolicited pictures like some people are talking about in the chat. But yeah, exactly. Just turn that thing off.
Awesome. Okay, and that has been Stories from the Sky.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
So we've been talking a lot on the show about electric vehicles and batteries and how they work in the cold. And there's a story that popped up today that the post office, United States Post Office, is buying 9,250 electric vans, and they're putting in 14,000 different charging stations.
What?
So, yeah, this story is from the Associated Press. they are saying that they're buying more than 9,000 Ford Motor electric vans, and they're putting in these 14,000 charging stations. It's all part of a move to switch the whole fleet at the U.S. Postal Service to electric vehicles. They're also buying more than 9,000 internal combustion engine vans from Fiat Chrysler, and the whole thing together with the EV vans and the charging stations and the other vans will cost about $1 billion. The gas-powered vehicles fill an urgent need, saying the post office. They are going to start receiving these electric vehicles in December of this year. Let's see. The charging stations are set to be installed at several Postal Service facilities, including sorting and delivery centers, during the third quarter of this year. So the Postal Service said in December that it would be increasing the number of electric-powered delivery trucks and that it would go all electric for new purchases starting in 2026. They are spending nearly $10 billion over this whole process to electrify what they say is an aging fleet, install modern charging infrastructure at hundreds of postal facilities nationwide, and purchase at least 66,000 electric delivery trucks in the next 5 years. So our thanks to the Associated Press for that story. But that is a sign of the times, really, as the post office switches to all electric vehicles. Have you seen, Albert, the Amazon vans that are electric that look kind of weird rolling around?
Yeah, I've seen them, and it's kind of cool when you see them. But it's the sign of the times, and
yeah,
it's a lot more sustainable. And I'm sure Belinda will be happy that there's more of these electric cars. But there's a lot of pushback because obviously we're just talking about last hour that the batteries have a hard time charging or getting going in the cold. So imagine the winter season when it's all electric vehicles and you're just waiting for your mail or you're waiting for your shipment. It's the holiday season
across the country.
This holiday season, they were hit by weather.
That's right.
Weather, and then if their cars can't even get there and the planes can't get there, then it's going to be even more of a nightmare come December.
Well, you've got electric vehicles in snowy parts of the country and cold parts of the country that, apparently are going to have problems, as we're learning here in California. So it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I think it's good that the government cares about the environment enough to make the switch. It's a lot of money to put out, I'll tell you.
It's just a cool $1 billion to get this thing started, and
yeah.
a total of $10 billion of world or countrywide to fix this and changing their infrastructure.
Yeah,
just the normal tax dollars we're paying for this.
There is another story that we've been following on the Mark Thompson Show, and this is about the presidential powers, presidential immunity, how it relates to potential charges against former President Trump when you talk about election denying or trying to find votes, as they say. And there's a story out of CNN today that says the Justice Department is pushing back on Trump's so-called sweeping claims of presidential immunity for his January 6th speech. Today, the Justice Department urged an appeals court to reject sweeping claims of presidential immunity put forward by former President Trump in the civil litigation surrounding the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. The DOJ saying to the appeals court, which is right now considering several lawsuits that have been brought against former President Trump for what he did on the lead up before the attack on the Capitol, that a president can't be absolutely immune for speech on a matter of public concern if that speech is found to have incited violence. What they're saying is no part of a president's official responsibility includes the incitement of imminent private violence. That is what the Justice Department filed in a friend of the court brief. They are saying that it's really the first time that their remarks at the DOJ have confronted directly the question of Trump's civil immunity for his conduct related to January 6th. The lawsuits brought by Democratic members of the House, of course, and Capitol police officers as well. So I wonder what your thoughts are on presidential immunity. The DOJ is saying immunity to a point, right? If it fits within the realm of what you have to do for your job and your office, that's one thing. But if it's words that incite violence, well, that's a whole different thing. That's not part of your job, and it therefore doesn't fall under presidential immunity. It's an interesting argument. I'll be looking to see what the appeals court decides as this case continues. So
it is really interesting to see this all play out, because when January 6th was happening, I was working at Station X.
Yeah.
And as it was happening, I couldn't believe it, but also I was thinking about, this is going to be in history books, and I mean how this is playing out with the presidential immunity. It's adding more to that chapter of a very, very weird and dark time in our history.
I mean, I'm glad that everything is being carefully considered, because I feel like that's the way it should be done on one hand. On the other hand, like you, I watched the whole thing unfold on screen, and over again have seen the pictures of Capitol police officers being injured, seeing what had become of our country at that moment and what that meant for America, and being crushed by it, as I think every American should be, regardless of your political stance. And I feel like in that instance, justice is moving too slowly. The wheels of justice are turning too slowly on this. I wanted people arrested day after. I want people in jail right now. I want a point to be made. I want everyone that was involved to be held to account, and then some. And as you've seen, people that were involved get these meager sentences. It's been kind of frustrating. So
very frustrating, because you'd think that this is where our government are the most important people in our country on paper and in practice, and it's our government, and they just stormed through like it was nothing. It was funny because you watch movies and you see it's like, oh, it's a high security, and you have a perception that this could never happen. Like you could break in and wreak havoc, and it's just funny how they just overpassed all of that stuff.
It's a cleavage of government that you look at third world countries and unstable governments, and you think, well, I can see why it would happen there. Maybe kind of looking at it through the American lens, thinking, oh, our country's so strong, that would never happen here. This is so great. Well, look, all it took is for one power-hungry zealot to get in place, and look how weak. Look at, I'm grateful for all the people that stood up and that did not allow it to happen. It did not allow him to continue to take power. But how scary how close we came, honestly. It's unbelievable. Still, after all this time. All right, let's do a little bit of news, and then we're going to get to Belinda Weymouth with It's the Planet, Stupid.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. As just mentioned, former President Trump can be sued for the actions of Capitol rioters on January 6th of 2021. This, as the Justice Department says, Trump's words that day went past the traditional function of public communication, crossing over into the incitement of violence. Trump argues absolute presidential immunity protects him. And a jury will soon decide Alex Murdaugh's fate now that closing arguments are over in his double murder trial. The once wealthy, high-profile South Carolina lawyer admits he lied to police about his whereabouts the night of the murder, stole money from clients, and was a drug addict. But he insists he didn't kill his wife and son. President Biden attending the Senate Democratic caucus launch. Reports coming out of that say the president told Democrats he would not veto a Republican effort to repeal changes to the criminal code in Washington, D.C. It reduced penalties for various offenses. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis isn't sure an endorsement from former President Trump means as much today as it once did. DeSantis was asked how much a Trump endorsement matters. He replied, I don't know. Trump has said DeSantis, who never have been elected without his support. Whoa, it's heating up down there in Florida. There's a new lawsuit filed by the family of Gabby Petito accusing a Utah police officer of being aware that her fiance, Brian Laundrie, was an emotional mental threat to Petito prior to her death. Fox News reporting lawyers for Petito's parents revealed transcripts of an interview between the Moab police officer who spoke with the couple during an alleged domestic incident and a police captain. Pratt reportedly described Laundrie, the officer involved is named Pratt, reportedly described Laundrie as a weird, not healthy dude. So then why would you let them go and not do anything? And look what happened. And lastly, Time Magazine is announcing its Woman of the Year for 2023. Time said the list highlights the women who are extraordinary leaders who are working toward a more equal world. It includes actress Cate Blanchett, soccer star Megan Rapinoe, musician Phoebe Bridgers, and Iranian journalist Masih Alinejad. And those are the tops of the list for the Women of the Year in 2023. And this report, was that for pronouncing the Alinejad? Yeah,
exactly.
I'll take that.
That was very good. Good.
I'm taking it and I'm running with it. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, please call Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-STEAL, or you can find him online and you can see the spelling of the website right there. It's MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
I misspoke. And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Why are you yelling?
It was great. I loved it.
How would you like this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
There's never been anything like this.
We've never seen anything like it before.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
God bless America. The end.
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Sayonara, sucker!
You know what, pal? You created havoc and chaos.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong? Huh?
Who is having that conversation?
Oh, we got to hit that one more. That was
I
nice.
liked it.
I rarely play that one, and Mark also rarely plays it. I need to add that to the rotation.
I like that. Was a little funky. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I want you to play it more too. That was really good. We have some people to thank, Status Post Newscast, because people have been kicking in to help fund this show, and as Mark says, keep the lights on, and we really appreciate that. So let's thank Ellen Anders, 1999. Ellen, thank you so much for kicking in and donating to the show today. Contributing, I should say. We really appreciate that. That is so nice. It's so nice. Thank you. Nat Meat, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Nat Meat, $10 super sticker.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you indeed. We appreciate that
so much.
And I think there's one more from Ms. Organic, $5. Great show, Kim. Thank you. Just trying to hold down the fort.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Mark is traveling to DC, so thank you for the nice words and thank you for the $5 contribution. I appreciate it very, very much. The super chat is open. You can donate that way. You can hit the website at themarkthompsonshow.com, and there's a Patreon and there's a PayPal and all kinds of ways to kick in if you so choose and are moved to do so. So
Yeah,
thank
help
you.
us keep our lights on, and we could keep on
That's
giving you
right.
the product that you're enjoying.
And we can afford to have an Albert and a Kim and a Mark. So we're grateful, and a Tony. So thank you for all that. Okay, so let us now go to Belinda Weymouth. She's got some really interesting stories to talk about in It's the Planet, Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth. A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet Stupid.
No. It's the planet Stupid.
We are people that care about the environment here on the Mark Thompson Show. It is the one thing we've got going for us, Belinda Weymouth, so why not protect it, right?
Yeah, we've got one planet. As a lot of people say, there is no planet B.
So, Belinda, I don't know if people know how much you have studied to be able to talk about all the things you do. You started as a super fancy Hollywood actress, and then you went back to school. Is that right? Is that how it worked out?
No. What happened was when I first left school, I trained to be a journalist, and I was a radio journalist in New Zealand. That's what I did.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then I've had a few reinventions. So yes, I was an actress. I was an actress in New Zealand, and then I came here to study in New York. I had no intention of living in America, and here I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's only been half my life, but thank you for the welcome.
Yeah.
It's really funny when you're one of those people who doesn't make plans. I'm not a planner. I sort of, a bit of a rolling stone. And I was in New York, never thought I'd live in LA. And then, my agent was coming here and other friends. And it's kind of wild because I've married someone who really plans. So I often look at him and go, wow, how do you do that? But yes, so what happened was I was an actress. I loved doing that. I did a solo autobiographical theater show and thought, oh, this is so much fun. And then I don't know what happened, but I had this moment where I want to use my intelligence and creativity for something different now. And what would be the most meaningful thing to do? I had a 3-year-old kid, and it's like, man, the planet is in trouble. And so I went back to school and did an environmental science and geography degree at UCLA.
That's amazing. And so you're knowledgeable about all this stuff. You went back to school so that you could be knowledgeable and talk to us about how we can better help save the planet. And I love that. I mean, what more important task could you put your energy to? I can't think of one.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't quite sure when I was, at UCLA and, loving it. It's really fun to go to school as an adult. So I would recommend it for anybody.
Even though you feel old, you probably feel old with all the young 20-somethings around, right?
It was pretty funny, I have to say, because I was the age of my professors, sometimes older than my professors. So that was a pretty wild experience. But I really loved it. And then I worked at UCLA after I graduated. I was their senior writer in the Institute of the Environment and Sustainability. And it was really fun to work there. But the reason why I got into communications, when I was doing my degree, was because there was so much interesting, amazing, all this research, stuff. And it's the thing I talk about it often on the show, but I wasn't reading it in the media. And so I started, I was doing research papers, and I started, writing blogs for the Huffington Post, on my own research papers. Because I was like, the world has to know about, these advances and these, things that are happening. So that's sort of how I stumbled back into it. And I've done quite a lot of work in ocean plastic and been involved with organizations with that, which is why I, loved one of the things I wanted to talk about today, this, glass recycling and basically glass repurposing that these, sort of grassroots organizations are doing, because we just don't have good, glass recycling in this country. And it's so crazy to me, there's the low hanging fruit, I always call them the low tech, high impact solutions, so these two Tulane students, drinking wine, looking at the bottle, going, oh, what a pity this is going to end up in a landfill, because Louisiana, North Carolina, a lot of states. I remember going to visit my in-laws and go, well, where's the recycling? Oh, we don't have that.
It's crazy sometimes when you go to a different place and you realize everything is just being thrown away.
Yeah, it's actually heartbreaking. I mean, I find it sort of, I am having a sort of a visceral physiological reaction when I, see these things, that are so recyclable, 100%. Glass. I mean, when we were kids, remember glass bottles, you returned them, they got cleaned and refilled.
Right.
And it's insane that we don't do that. They do that now in, Germany. And Germany, when I talk about these other countries, I do always put out the disclaimer, Germany, way smaller geographically than the United States, only 84 million people as opposed to our 340 million people. Yeah. But because they're doing this, manufacturers charge you 25 cents for the bottle. Mm-hmm. They have 76%, recycling rate with their glass. And they also have receptacles, that are easy. People go, they put them in, they get their 25 cents back. I get my milk in a glass bottle. I pay a $3 deposit on that bottle. You better bet your britches I am taking that.
Is it do you use Strauss? Is it Strauss Family Creamery? Is that what you use?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Those bottles, they can stack up in the kitchen, and then you got to take them back, and then you get like $25 at one pop when you take like 5 of them back. So
feels good, right?
It is good, and it feels good because you know what I heard, and I know this isn't what you wanted to talk about, but why I switched to glass is because we at my house, we were reading that there's a plastic film coating the inside of a regular milk carton. Yeah. So if you're trying to get away from plastics and plastics in your food, you're not going to be able to eliminate everything, right? But you can limit. So if you switch to glass milk, especially like at my house, my kids drink milk. I'm not a milk drinker per se, but my kids are. So if I don't want to pump my kids full of, the plastic filming from the inside, that's why I went to glass bottles.
Yeah. It makes absolute sense because yes, you've got a fatty liquid, milk inside plastic, and yes, the nasties on that, are going to, adhere to that milk, and your kids are going to drink it. So it's yucky. So these two students in Tulane, they start this project, and since 2020 with diverting, glass, and what they're doing is they're grinding it up. And of course, glass is silica, sand is silica, so they call it glass sand. And it's being used for these, they've so far 2 restoration projects in Louisiana. And, I don't know if our listeners know, but the rate of erosion in Louisiana, the coastline is disappearing at the rate of 2 football fields an hour. So this is erosion, this is hurricanes, it's terrible. And so
that sounds like an awful lot. 2 football fields an hour?
Yeah. It's insane what's happening in Louisiana. I mean, they're really bearing the brunt of, the hurricanes that are coming up from, the Gulf of Mexico. And when that warm air coming off the Atlantic, and when you don't have all your coastal ecosystems and wetlands in place, then those mitigate the effects of a storm. So you need you need those ecosystems, and it's going to be a big job, obviously, doing this restoration. But when there are storms coming, they're packing their glass sand into bags and giving it to people, to shore up their properties, from the water damage. And there's a picture I'll tweet it when I get off talking to you, Kim, that shows their sandbags being used in this restoration project in Lake Pontchartrain. And, now that they've sort of seen the results and seen the ecosystem coming back, they're like, okay, we want to do more. We want to do more. And there are these little grassroots recycling efforts, all over the place. I mean, Kansas City, there was this one company that uses glass bottles. And when they realized that the residents of Kansas City were throwing away, it's a 150 million, is it tons or pounds? It can't be tons. I mean, let me just look at that number. But the amount of glass that they're throwing away each year, I mean, it's just gobsmacking. And so let me see, what is it? 100. I mean, I was just so like, okay, yeah, 150 million pounds. So
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a lot of glass. And when
Yeah.
you get these, small startups working together to collect that glass, to recycle it, because we don't need that in the land, sitting in a landfill doing nothing. Especially, it's a resource. So
Yeah.
reuse the resource.
Do you ever feel though, when you recycle aluminum cans or glass, and you think you're doing your part and doing it right, and you've separated everything out, and you roll out your blue bin to the street, and then you hear that all of these things are recycled in other countries like China, and they don't want it anymore, and so then it has just been discarded like garbage that isn't special or isn't to be recycled, and it feels disheartening because you thought you'd been recycling this whole time, and it turns out maybe not so much.
Yeah. No, we'd been recycling our butts off, and then China said no more foreign garbage, and we were suddenly like, I mean, the whole world, all Western countries were sending their plastics to China, and that's crazy. I mean, the plastics, is one thing, and I've got another thing I can talk about as far as recycling goes. That a friend of mine is getting involved with these machines that can separate out according to weight and turn it into, recyclable feedstock for plastics companies to remake into, plastic goods. But, can that, cycle up, quickly enough? The thing about aluminium and glass is they are both 100% recyclable. So, and I reuse aluminium foil. Yes, I wash it after each use, and I use it until that stuff is, I mean, my friends laugh when they come over because they're like, okay, bring out the aluminium. Let's see the pieces that and obviously when I'm not going to bring out something that looks, I mean, once it gets to the point where it's not reusable, I surrender and I put it in the recycling bin. But if you can reuse a piece of aluminium foil 5 times, Kim, you zero out its carbon footprint.
Oh, I didn't know that. So use it 5 times and feel better about yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing, is that, I think of all the aluminium that has ever been mined, I think 75% of it, has been recycled. So, we really are using that stuff over and over. And it's the same with glass. So to me, it's a super crime that, not all companies are doing what Strauss is doing, saying, okay, you pay this ridiculous deposit on the bottle, but hey, you bring it back, we wash the bottle, and we put, lovely fresh, milk back in it, and here it is. Right. And it's, this is low tech, high impact, because, we can't keep putting all this stuff in the landfills. We just can't, we can't do it. It's crazy,
Although I would argue, and yes, you're 100% right, but I would argue that it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you threw glass into a landfill, it would be infinitely better than plastic.
Yes, everything is infinitely better than plastic. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's true. It's just that if you can reuse it, and if you can take that silica, because the other thing is, this is a whole other story, but, we've got a sand shortage. We're dredging up sand to try and save our, coastlines. That causes ecological damage. So that's why this glass sand is a way better option. We're going to where the best sand in the world is, and we're collecting it to take to wherever the Olympic Games or the next outdoor volleyball tournaments are being played. So that's another thing that's happening is, the beautiful sand that's on beaches and different places is being harvested for sports. So it's we have to get smart with the glass. And I want to touch briefly also on the other story, because it relates to our crazy Brazilian skydiver reseeding deforested parts of the Amazon. So we've got these 2 brothers up in Canada, and very traumatically for them, when they were young teenagers, there was this huge fire, 2003, basically in their backyard. And they were so devastated by what they saw happen to that forest. And it was basically, they said, it hasn't regenerated yet. And they are now they have this company called Flash Forest. Yeah, that's the drone. So two brothers, and they're using these drones. They've modified them. So they have these seed deployers on them, which shoot out 5 seed pods per second. They have aerial mapping software on them. So when they go up, they only go up to 150, 200 feet. And they go over these burnt forests, and they've been doing it in different provinces in Canada. And they shoot out the seed pods. With the aerial mapping, they're able to make sure they're not dropping it in a water system. They're not dropping it on rocks or the top of trees. They're strategically dropping it, where there is, bare soil. The seed deployer can shoot it into the soil. And the really wonderful, it's super smart what they're doing, because they're like, okay, we can't just plant one species of tree. We can't just have a monoculture. We have to have biodiversity. So they've got 100 different species of trees that they're able to shoot into these deforested, sections. And they are now, as they say, we're now at the commercial operation phase, which is pretty amazing, because, they started in 2021 doing their first pilot project. And now, 2 years later, that they're at the commercial stage. They've got the government involved. The Canadian government has put money aside for drone replanting of burnt forests. They're partnering with First Nations communities, private companies. It's all systems go. These guys want to plant, 1 billion trees by 2028. That's one of the brothers there, which is hugely ambitious. But, this is super important, because we're losing 20 billion trees a year. We're only replanting 7 billion. All the fantastic grassroots efforts around the world, which these guys want to augment, help with, but doing it with a shovel and people walking out there, it's a lot slower than, having obviously, drones out there.
Yeah.
But if we, the amount of carbon that we could, absorb if we were reforesting, at the rate that we should be, is huge. And the thing is, we're not, emissions aren't stopping yet. We're not in the negative yet. We're not dropping. So, we have moments when we drop in, worldwide global emissions. So I just think this, again, this is, I'd say moderately high tech, but
yeah.
But no brainer. It's like, duh, of course, replant trees, absorb, the carbon. Yep.
You hear people, the people complain a lot about drones, and they're used for, to spy on people, to kill people in different countries, whatever. What a use for a drone to replant trees, a positive use that could help the environment. I was just reading the article, and the man that is behind all this, one of the men, was 14 years old when a wildfire came ripping in and just devastated the city where he lives and burned all these trees. And really, that's not so different from California, where wildfires strike every October and throughout the wildfire season. So this is a technology that could be used here as well.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing. They're really talking about the Pacific Northwest, that, Oregon will be, Washington and Oregon will be next. And then, hopefully we'll be getting them down here in California doing it. Because, in 2021, June, I went on a camping trip up in Oregon and Washington. And, we were in Washington and we were on the western side of the Cascade Mountains. Absolutely beautiful, green, lush. And then we drove over the mountains and into the rain shadow, the warmer part where they don't get as much precipitation. And I was talking to a local guy in the store, and I said, we've just done this, and we're going to, go a bit east and then start heading, south back to Oregon. And he said, well, don't take this road because this is all the forests are burned. It's pretty, decimated. And of course, on that drive back and being further east than on the coast, we drove through so many burnt forests. And, to see those black charred, stumps of trees left behind, and you know, it's awful. And this is the reality that we're in, and in so many parts of the world. So these guys need to do the Pacific Northwest and then get down to the Amazon, help out our, skydiving friend down there, Mr. Canny, Luigi Canny, I think his name. Yeah, I remember his name.
I love that story about reforesting via drone. I think that's what a use. And when you talk about recycling plastic or recycling glass, rather, one of my very favorite things, my dishes in my kitchen or bowls, recycled sea glass. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, I've got jewelry that's got sea glass in it, and that's one of the things that the two Tulane students do as well. They make jewelry out of glass, and there are tons of it's we've really got to repurpose stuff. We've got to look at our what we think of as trash or detritus in a really different way, because it's crazy how much we throw away, and we didn't used to be like that. It's like I've said on the show, and I'll say it again, but frugality is the wise use of resources, and being frugal used to be a prized American trait. People were like, yes, that's good. And then after World War II and planned obsolescence, and we were just taught to be shoppers, to consume, and it's this very linear model, exploitation of resources, manufacture it, we buy it, we use it, we toss it, but we need to have a circular model where it's being repurposed, reused, where we're not just trashing things and they're landfill bound. It's a bad model.
Belinda Weymouth, you can tell because I'm late. It's noon already, and I could talk to you all day long and pick your brain about all the best ways to recycle. I'm already going to turn over a new leaf. I've decided when it comes to, as you say, aluminum foil, I'm going to go for it. So thank you for being here, and thank you for helping us talk about the planet. We appreciate you so much, Belinda Weymouth.
Oh, totally my pleasure, Kim. Thank you. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Oh, have a great afternoon and have a great week next week. Have some good time off.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you later. That is Belinda Weymouth with It Is the Planet, Stupid. Albert, are we supposed to play a close? Because if we don't play it, Mark is going to go nuts. No, we're just doing the show end. Okay, that's okay too. So thank you to everyone who has donated, contributed to the show. Luis for $4.99. Great job. Be safe, Mark Thompson. Best to you and your family. We are all sending good wishes as Mark wings his way to Washington, D.C. We'll check in with them this evening and just make sure he made it okay. And we'll let you all know tomorrow how that all went out. Nikki Maduro's show is on now. The Employment Development Department garnishing wages of people that were approved for benefits. What? We've got an author, Jarl Jensen. We've talked to him on the Mark Thompson Show. He's amazing. He's going to talk about ways to engineer the economy. Are we doing our economy right? Well, Jarl will talk to us about that. And that Don't Say Gay bill, they might expand it. It went to 3rd grade. Now it might go to 8th grade in Florida. That and more
for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
On the Nikki Maduro Show next. Oh, no, it's over. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Mwah.